may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for wishing me well. I know that I probably made it sound a lot scarier than it is. Yes, the majority of Austin is out of power. Yes, I do not have internet, but outside of that, my apartment still has heating. Pretty much all good here. The only thing is, I have no idea when I'm going to be able to get y'all this video just because I don't have internet. The majority of the city does not even have power. So hopefully I can call around, see if anybody has a hotspot. Hopefully that hotspot is strong enough for me to be able to upload a YouTube video. But if not, y'all will be watching this whenever I get the chance. And pretty much why I'm making this video is I need your help. What I need is I need y'all to go down to the comment section and I need y'all to talk me out of this. Talk me out of buying into Juju Smith-Schuster. Because we've been receiving a ton of questions on Patreon asking, hey Mason, you told me last offseason to go out there and to trade for Juju. He's lost a lot of value since then. What am I doing with him now? Are we going to be selling him at a cheaper price before he hits free agency? Or are we going to be sticking it out? And I find myself telling everyone, you can't sell. You have to hold. If anything, I've found myself, especially in these mock drafts, in some new flock leagues, I've been going out there and trying to trade for him. I've been acquiring Juju yet again. I'm doing it all over again after making a massive mistake last offseason where I was on my high horse saying, y'all are stupid. Y'all don't remember how elite his age-adjusted production was from 2018. Y'all are just remembering the bad 2019 season where he played through an injury, he did not have his quarterback, and everything fell apart. I said that there was no need to worry. And we had a lot of pushback saying, hey Mason, pay attention to what's going on with Juju. Pay attention to the fact that he is just nonstop on Instagram, that he's nonstop on YouTube, that he's nonstop on TikTok. This is going to get to him. And my response to that was, hey buddy, you have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, okay, boomer. Like I was being an ass back saying, that is not a worry for me at all. Juju Smith-Schuster was going to be able to handle building a social media quote-unquote empire and still continuing to develop his craft as he aged throughout his NFL career. And I just want to completely admit, 6 months later, it looks like the haters were wrong. It looks like the haters were right. I was the wrong one. But because of that, his value has drastically fallen. And we have to ask ourselves, has it fallen to the point where I think we could be buying yet again? So in this video, I'm going to go through, I'm going to give you my case on why I'm going to be buying Juju Smith-Schuster this offseason. And I want you to go down to the comment section and I want you to push back. Tell me why you think I should be selling Juju where I have him and not be collecting more shares. All right, so let's dive into this. And the first thing that we need to talk about with Juju Smith-Schuster is something that we always talk about, and it's the fact that he is so much younger than everybody assumes that he is. I mean, right now, Juju is 24 years old going into his 5th NFL season. Yes, I said that correctly. He is 24 years old going into his 5th NFL season. If we go over to some wide receivers that have been recently drafted, guys like Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, who were drafted in 2019 and are now going into their 3rd seasons, not their 5th, they are older than Juju Smith-Schuster. They are significantly older than Juju. So we have to acknowledge the fact that Juju still has room to develop. Juju still is going to be able to go through and improve his routes, improve what he's able to do at the catch point, and just become a smarter football player overall, because we know that when a player comes into the NFL at 22, 23 years old, yeah, they may make an impact right away, but their long-term ceiling tends to be a little bit capped, whereas if you come in at 20, 21 years old, you are going to have that longer runway for you to continue to develop your craft. So that's the first thing I want to point out when we're talking about Juju, because his production is going to have to be viewed through a lens of how impressive that it was with how young he was. And now let's get into his production, because we know, obviously, at this point, the production is definitely the most important thing to look at with Juju. And in 2017, his age 20 season, yes, not 21, he was not able to drink yet. 20 years old, he was able to average over 4 receptions a game and over 60 yards a game. This is right up there with Randy Moss. I mean, there are very, very few wide receivers historically that have been able to come close to these marks at this type of age. I think it's Randy Moss. I know Mike Evans always gets thrown into that mix. I don't have the players in front of me, but it's only 2 or 3 guys, including Moss, maybe Evans, maybe one other player that I am misremembering. But then let's go to his next year. Let's go to his historic year, 2018, where he came out and he averaged 90 receiving yards a game. He averaged 7 receptions a game with over 110 receptions. So if we compare this to sophomore seasons from A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, wide receivers that are at the very top of Dynasty leagues right now, Juju's second season surpasses what they were able to do. I mean, Juju had a more impressive sophomore year than DK Metcalf, than A.J. Brown, and Juju Smith-Schuster was slightly younger than both of those wide receivers as he did this. And I understand a lot of people want to come out here and say, Mason, it's just because Antonio Brown was there. It was because Antonio Brown was getting double teamed on the outside and allowing Juju Smith-Schuster to run freely across the middle of the field. And I will say, yes, that makes sense if you are not understanding how NFL defenses work now. Now, you rarely ever see NFL teams to decide to double the top wide receiver. I mean, that literally happens, I want to say, like less than 1% of routes throughout the entire season. I know that sounds ridiculous. I know that I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but I promise you, I was looking at the tracking data last offseason to go through and try to put those narratives at ease, because that was the number one argument against Juju as I bought in entirely. And then 2019, we all remember what happened. I mean, Juju was dealing with a multitude of injuries, including a hamstring. Ben Roethlisberger goes down in week 2 with the elbow injury. We have Deontay Johnson coming in. Deontay Johnson beginning to see the volume, and Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges being pretty much the worst starting quarterbacks in the entire NFL. And 2019, 3.5 receptions, only 50 receiving yards a game. I was out here screaming, ignore these numbers. There are so many different things moving around that makes it where we really don't have to pay attention to what happened in 2019, where I think maybe at this point we can just admit, hey, we should have looked at that a little closer. We should have looked at the fact that Deontay Johnson was outproducing Juju when they are both on the field. I wanted to completely discount it, and I will say I was wrong. I should not have done that. That is a learning point in our dynasty journey. This is something I always talk about. We're always going to continue to add things to our process. We are always going to try to continue to be at the very top. And how you do that is you don't stay the same dynasty player. You have to make sure you're implementing new things whenever you see them. And that is something that we overlooked, and we definitely needed to pay attention to that. But regardless, let's go into 2020, where I understand the entire narrative was that Juju was a massive bust. Juju had way more attention with what he was doing on TikTok rather than what he was doing on the football field. And a lot of people wanted to point at him for their recent losses, where we know that they started out as an extremely strong undefeated team. Everything kind of fell apart. Juju took a ton of the blame from the media. But if you look back at the numbers, I mean, Juju had a much more impressive season than a lot of people want to give him credit for. I mean, he closed in on almost 100 total receptions last season. He had 6 receptions a game. And on top of that, he had almost 10 receiving touchdowns in 2020. So I know everybody is assuming that Juju put up a miserable year in 2020 just because of the narrative that we had around him. But in reality, I mean, if you're looking at points per game, he was a low-end wide receiver 2. If you're looking at total points, he was a high-end wide receiver 2. So I think obviously points per game are way more important. I'm never going to shy away from that we need to be focusing in on points per game. So just call him a low-end wide receiver 2 on a team with Deontay Johnson, on a team with Chase Claypool, with a washed Ben Roethlisberger. I think we all had a chance to see how Big Ben had pretty much no talent, no arm strength left by the time we got to the end of the season. So I think we can kind of explain away why Juju was only a wide receiver 2. And now going into 2021, I think we are going to see Juju leave Pittsburgh. I understand that he's came out and he has said on multiple occasions that he wants to stay in Pittsburgh, that he loves the city, yada, yada, yada. I think this is mainly due to the fact that Juju has a ton of fans in Pittsburgh, and they have been so supportive of him for pretty much his entire career. And I think what that means is that means he is going to come out and he's going to pay them respect by saying that he wants to stay. He wants to provide Pittsburgh with the rest of his career. But in reality, I mean, the front office and Juju, I think, are going to have a very hard times coming to an agreement, as this was a front office that decided to go out there and instead of extending Juju Smith-Schuster after 2019, they went and drafted another wide receiver in the second round in Chase Claypool. They've showed no commitment to Juju in the long haul. They've consistently invested into the wide receiver position with Deontay Johnson in the third round in 2019, with Chase Claypool in the second round in 2020. And we know the 2021 draft class is also loaded with wide receivers. So I think Juju is most likely going to be out of Pittsburgh. And let's go through every team that could use a wide receiver like Smith-Schuster this upcoming season. And then let's narrow it down to the teams that I think are actually likely landing spots. And let's go through right now the entire list. The New England Patriots on this list: Philadelphia Eagles, Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, Las Vegas Raiders, the Cleveland Browns, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Los Angeles Chargers. But here, if we actually go through and we go, what is Juju going to be looking for in a team? I think the number one thing, considering the fact that everything he has done over the past 2 years has been to grow his social media brand, I think he is going to want to go to a big market. I think we're going to want to see him in an LA, in a New York, in even maybe a Las Vegas. You could make the argument that he could be interested in going to the Las Vegas Raiders. But outside of that, that leaves the Raiders, the Giants, the Jets, and the Chargers. Now, let's remember where Juju Smith-Schuster went to college. Juju went to USC, and we know that LA is somewhere where he spends a ton of time. He's out there vlogging with other YouTubers that live in LA. I think very similar to how a lot of people were saying LeBron wanted to get into Hollywood. LeBron went to the Los Angeles Lakers. He wanted to enter that big market. I know Juju has nothing close to that kind of name brand, but he wants to. He wants to continue to grow his brand. I think the most obvious landing spot for Juju this offseason is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers. And I know right away you hear that and you go, they have Keenan Allen, they have Mike Williams, they have Hunter Henry. That's not going to be a good spot. But if you actually dive into it, one, Justin Herbert looks like he could be the next top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He looks like he could be the next Rodgers, and I know a lot of people are going to hate me saying that, but Justin Herbert looks like he is on pace to be a dominant NFL quarterback. Mike Williams is under the last year of his contract in 2021. Hunter Henry was franchise tagged last offseason, so Hunter Henry could easily be gone this offseason. And then we are going to be looking at Keenan Allen, Juju, and Mike Williams. So I think the targets would actually be there if we are going to project the Los Angeles Chargers to be one of the top offenses in the NFL. And with that skill positional group, Mike Williams stretching the field, Keenan Allen and Juju running a little bit more in immediate routes, a little bit more closer to the line of scrimmage. I think that could be a fantastic spot for Juju, where he could vault up to being that high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1, like we've seen him be pretty much his entire NFL career. And right now, in these dynasty startups, he has a very, very low price. He's going after a player like Julio Jones, who's 32 years old, and you could argue if Juju lands in LA, that Julio and Juju would have similar 2021 outlooks based on Julio's decline as he progresses in age. And he's going behind DJ Chark, who's only had one solid season back in 2019. He's going behind Cooper Kupp, who was a major disappointment on a multitude of occasions in multiple big games this season and down the stretch last season. So I think when we are looking at Juju, we go, you know what? I mean, I understand that it's frustrating. He was on pace to being one of the best wide receivers of all time if you looked at his age-adjusted production after his sophomore year and how it put him literally neck and neck with Randy Moss and nobody else close in between them. But we have to kind of get over ourselves. We have to understand that that's not who Juju is anymore. But at the same time, he can still be a very high floor and high ceiling wide receiver that's only 24 years old. I mean, a lot of these guys that are viewed as long-term safe assets like a Terry McLaurin are older than him. So if I could go and get Juju as a core asset for my Dynasty team for the next 4 years of his prime, that's something I would love to do at a massive, massive discount. Now, thank you guys. Like I said, what I need y'all to do is I need y'all to go down to the comment section and let me know why I'm wrong. Let me know why we need to be avoiding Juju. Let me know if you think he's going to be going somewhere else or whatever I said that could be wrong in this video. Let me hear it. But that's all I got for y'all. I hope y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all with the video hopefully tomorrow.